When I was a sophomore in college, I got into a really bad car accident. I was at HEB on Riverside with my grandma and my older cousin. We were leaving and it was pretty late that day. It was about 5 or 6 o'clock, which is traffic time. So when we were leaving the parking lot, we had to make a left turn to get home, but it was pretty difficult to do so, especially since all the lanes were jam packed. Well, my cousin was driving, my grandma was in the passenger seat, and I was in the back seat right behind the passenger side. Well, my cousin decides to take the left turn as quick as he can and hopefully he can cut across. Well, he clears the first lane as soon as we take a left, and then he tries to get over to the right, and as he's doing so, I don't think he cleared traffic. So, being the backseat driver that I am, I turn my head to see if anyone's coming, and it just so happens that I see a city bus coming towards us super fast. And before I can say anything, I black out. That's all I remember. I don't remember getting hit. All I remember is waking up and our truck was flipped over on its side in a ditch. A telephone pole had been knocked onto our car, onto the hood, and I looked down at myself to make sure I was okay. And I was still strapped in, but all the windows were broken. And immediately, the next thing I thought was wondering is if my grandma was okay. So I call out to her. I'm like, Grandma, Grandma. And she doesn't respond. So I call out to her again and I kind of tap her shoulder because from the looks of things, it doesn't look too good up there. And finally, she kind of moves and she makes a little noise. So I keep talking to her and I'm letting her know that things are going to be okay and that people are coming to help us, which they were because I could see it. So my cousin's fine and he gets out of the car and I get out of the car as well. And I'm waiting for the ambulance to arrive. And when they do, they check me and they put me in a stretcher just for precaution, just as a precaution. And they get my grandma out of the car and they put her in a separate ambulance. I'm nervous because I want to be with her. I don't know if everything's going to be okay. I don't know how severe her injuries are. So I'm just freaking out. The first thing I do is thankfully I had my phone in my pocket. So I call my parents, let them know what happened really quick just to get to the hospital because we had been in a car accident. Upon arrival at the hospital, they do standard testing. They did x-rays and then just made sure everything was okay. Thankfully, nothing too bad happened to me. I just had a burn on my neck from the seat belt and some bruising, but I was fine. And my cousin, he had a slight concussion, but he was fine. And my grandma, we hadn't heard anything about her, so as soon as they let me go, I went to find out which room she was in. And finally, when I did, I was happy to learn that she was gonna be okay. She had 3 broken ribs. She had 2 lacerations in her head, one in the front of her head and one in the back, which required a bunch of stitches. And she also had to get stitches on the corner of her eye from the glass, from the windows breaking. But I got to see her right after, and I just started crying because that was the scariest moment of my life. I didn't know if she was going to make it or not. I was just thankful that she did and thankful no one else got hurt. It could have been really bad, especially with a huge bus coming towards you, but I feel like everything happens for a reason and I'm glad that happened the way it did.